We have a bill to impose hard labor sentences on certain criminals passed by the New Hampshire House. It's really wild just to see how, like, Maine and Massachusetts and Vermont are all setting themselves on fire. And New Hampshire seems to be, like, the sole bastion of sanity in the area. Kind of, meanwhile, in a sane state, yeah, exactly. Especially heinous, bong bong, convicted criminals could be sentenced to hard labor in New Hampshire if a bill that's making its way through the state legislature becomes law. The House of Representatives on Wednesday voted 179 to 159 to pass the bill that would allow for hard labor as a sentencing option for those convicted of capital murder and serious sexual assaults on children. The bill says that if 9 out of 12 jurors agree, the defendant shall perform hard labor for the duration of their natural life, subject only to medical exemptions. Hell yeah, they can be used to make big rocks into littler rocks! The bill defines hard labor as physically intensive manual labor, including field work, construction, waste management, manufacturing work, and other tasks that demand prolonged physical effort. It would have to be performed no less than 8 hours a day for 5 days a week, and paid at a prison wage rate that is not higher than what it would be for other inmate jobs. I wonder when Massachusetts started to lose their mind. I don't remember what he was arrested for, but when my mom was dating the neo-Nazi, he did get arrested for something else at some point, and he had to do a stint in a prison that sometimes you pass when you're driving on the highway. Like, it's a very, like, small-looking prison, and it has a giant field, and the inmates were expected to, like, plant and harvest crops at the prison, and he talked about doing that when he got out, because I think he was only in there for, like, 10 or 11 months. Again, I have no idea why. I never inquired because I didn't fucking care. But I wonder if that's still used for that, or if Massachusetts went psychopathic enough to actually stop that from happening. You know that prison? I don't know the name of the prison, so like I can only describe kind of what it looks like from the highway when you drive past it. Maine is because when the left gained power after LePage, they immediately implemented everything they needed to cheat their way to permanent control. Plus, there's essentially no effective opposition. This is again another case of get involved locally. Figure out how to get involved locally. Figure out what you can do to support candidates that would go against the people making your state turn to shit. You know? Republican Representative Terry Roy of Deerfield said he supports punishing people that do the most evil crimes. Same! With the death penalty! And argued that the current system is too lenient on the worst criminals. The person sentenced to jail is going to work on getting himself a degree on taxpayer dollars. He's going to use his iPad. He's going to enjoy his time, Roy said. Opponents say there's no evidence that hard labor deters violent crime, and it could create problems in prisons. The proposal creates labor camps that are expensive and dangerous. Democratic Rep. Linda Harriet Gathright of Nashua said, "Imagine caring what anyone in charge of Nashua thinks. Come on, dude." They raise serious public safety risk, constitutional concerns, and major fiscal consequences that this body should not ignore. The bill still needs to pass the state Senate. WBZ-TV, man, that was hard, has reached out to Governor Kelly Ayottes' office for comment. The American Civil Liberties Union of New Hampshire called the bill harsh, cruel, and archaic. Well, that just makes me want to support it even more. What the fuck do you mean by this? Forced labor has caused millions of incarcerated people across the country to be exploited, underpaid, and excluded from workplace safety protection laws. Well, maybe they shouldn't have raped a child or murdered a person, and then maybe I would care a bit more. And it has enabled human rights abuses and systemic racism for centuries. I don't really see someone who's killing people or raping children as a human any longer. I'm going to be real with you. It helps pay to keep them fed and housed. True. The ACLU said in a statement. Yeah, but I also don't care what the ACLU has to say. Rape the child, death, murder, also death, simple. Yeah, that's kind of how I feel, you know? New Hampshire House Republicans pass a bill targeting DEI in health services. New Hampshire House Republicans are making another push against diversity, equity, and inclusion, or DEI, in state government. A bill passed on a 192-159 vote Thursday takes aim at the State Office of Health Access. We're dancing around the issue so everybody here understands what we're talking about. White privilege does not exist, said State Representative Matt Drew, R. Manchester, drawing laughter from the Democratic caucus. And that reaction right there is why this bill is necessary. Man, someone based in Manchester? Color me fucking shocked. House Republicans passed a scaled-back version of their bill to further scrub DEI efforts from health and environmental programs in state government. Last year's state budget transformed the Office of Health and Equity into the Office of Health Access. And this, I'm pretty sure, is when I reported on it as well, because it was a big deal finding out that instead of getting rid of the office like they were supposed to, they simply changed the name like all of these DEI freaks tend to do. Thanks, Bridge, for informing us ahead of time. The amended bill would eliminate the office altogether and move key functions to other divisions within the Department of Health and Human Services. The blind get their services, the deaf get their services, people with disabilities keep full access, said State Representative Yuri Polozov, Republican in Hooksett. It also makes clear federal mandates are outside the scope of proposed changes. Democrats called the bill mean-spirited. The bill specifically targets health equity. Do you know what that means? Said State Rep Jessica Lamentang D. Dover. It is about equality of opportunity to be as healthy as possible. No, lady, you said targets health equity. Equity is not equality of opportunity, but nice try, commie scum. It does not mean discrimination against some at the expense of others. Partisan issues aside, some lawmakers said the bill would mean more administrative juggling for DHHS when it's already facing budget cuts. What we are doing is taking a reorganized office, reorganizing it, creating a muddle at a time when the Department of Health and Human Services, as we just heard, is under-resourced and understaffed, said State Rep Lucy Weber, D. Walpole. The bill is heading to the House Finance Committee for more work. And yeah, I don't really give a shit if it would mean more administrative juggling, because you know what happens when there's not enough administrative juggling? Fraud. We're seeing it everywhere right now. So forgive me if I don't care about your crocodile tears about having to have more fucking paperwork and more fucking paper trails about the shit that you're doing with taxpayer money. Harvard Dean Gregory Davis removed after anti-white, anti-police social media posts resurfaced. A Harvard University dean has been removed after a student-run news outlet exposed social media posts slamming whiteness, police, and advocating for looting and rioting. Gregory Davis, the former Dunster House Alston Burr resident dean, what a mouthful, found himself in the hot seat after a Harvard student-run news outlet called Yard Report resurfaced the problematic posts. Davis was on leave last semester for reasons unrelated to the controversy. What was he on leave for? What did he do that he was put on leave? I'm interested. While Harvard did not confirm that Davis was removed for the inflammatory post, Fox News Digital obtained the text from an email sent by the faculty deans of Dunster House confirming Davis's removal. We're writing to confirm that Gregory Davis is no longer serving as the Alston Burr resident dean of Dunster House, effective today. We thank Gregory for serving in this role and wish him and his family the best in their future endeavors. The email message also announced that Emily Raymer, who served as interim dean during Davis's absence, would take over the role full-time. We look forward to seeing everyone again in the coming weeks, the email said. As always, we welcome hearing from you on any issues affecting the Dunster community. The posts in question were made between 2019 and 2024, mostly on X, but also on Instagram. Davis became the dean of the dormitory in 2024. One of the posts said, "It's almost like whiteness is a self-destructive ideology that annihilates everyone around it. By design," he said on X in 2019. During 2020, when tensions between police and left-wing rioters reached a fever pitch after George Floyd was killed, Davis slammed the police. "You should ask your cop friends to resign since they're racist and evil," he said on X at the time. As rioters and looters wreaked havoc in major metropolitan areas nationwide, Davis defended the chaos. "Something to keep in mind, rioting and looting are parts of democracy, just like voting and marching," he said on X. "The people will be heard." In the same year, around the time President Trump tested positive for COVID-19, Davis said on X that he didn't blame people who wished Trump ill. He followed that post with a second captioned, "But also, fuck that guy," attaching a meme that said, "If he dies, he dies." Just before Davis accepted his role as dean of the Dunster House in 2024, he made a post about Pride Month on Instagram. "Wishing everyone a great Pride, remember to love each other and hate the police," the post said. When confronted with the post, Davis wrote to Dunster House residents in an email about the scandal, which was obtained by Fox News Digital. "Recently, some media organizations have inquired regarding comments that I made on my personal social media accounts prior to my start in the resident dean role," he wrote. "These posts do not reflect my current thinking or beliefs. I deeply appreciate the responsibility inherent in the resident dean role, and I value the trust that individuals have placed in me. I regret if my statements have any negative impact on the Dunster community. Since becoming the Alston Burr resident dean, I have worked hard to ensure that Dunster House is a welcoming, warm, and supportive space for all of its members." Well, apparently except for the white ones, based on what you said. The message continued, "That continues to be the guiding force of my work today. As events outside of Harvard have affected our house and me personally, my commitment to each of you, our students, has not wavered. In my role, I have enjoyed the opportunity to work collaboratively with members of the HUPD and other colleagues across campus. I respect the work that they do to support our community. Davis did not return a request for comment. Disavow anything that might bring consequences upon me publicly. Does anyone believe this guy? Yeah, absolutely not. I don't believe this guy. I do not believe it. Does anyone believe him, though? Another college lib fired? Oh my god. Yeah, no, imagine. Something's actually happening. Kinda crazy. But a new bill aims at reducing how many miles people drive in Massachusetts. The goal of the proposed legislation is to keep Massachusetts on the road to a smaller carbon footprint, since transportation accounts for the largest share of emissions in the Bay State. Bro, can you imagine how much better the traffic is gonna get after this? Those poor Massachusetts people. A new bill proposed in Massachusetts aims to reduce how many miles people drive in their cars. Lawmakers say the goal is to reduce the state's greenhouse gas emissions. While no specific mileage was listed, the bill would require MassDOT to set goals to reduce the number of statewide driving miles in general. The proposal is a push to align the state's transportation plans with its climate mandates, and is based on similar laws in Colorado and Minnesota. The bill would establish a new council to find ways to make public transportation more accessible for residents, looking at solutions like trains, ferries, buses, bike paths, and more. No thank you. No thank you. I don't want to risk getting moited on my way to or from work. No thank you. Also, didn't New York have something similar to this for a while, where it was like congestion driving, where like you'd have to pay like some sort of fine or tax or something depending on the time of day you were driving? And then that only was there for like a few months because it was a fucking horrible idea. Meanwhile, Taylor Swift flies her 2 private jets to 15 different countries in 30 days. Yeah, right? Yeah, right. Meanwhile, the people who this doesn't apply to will continue living their lives as normal. It's only you, dear middle-class working people, who this will affect. The purpose of the Freedom to Move Act. I really hate commie doublespeak. Imagine labeling a bill that's going to restrict how much you can drive the Freedom to Move Act. You will never hate commies as much as you think you do. Is to ensure that we are investing in all transportation options, both roads and highways, and cleaner alternatives like trains and buses to help align Massachusetts with its climate targets. The bill's sponsor, Democratic Senator Cynthia Stone Cream, said in a statement, "It does not in any way limit people's choice about how to get around. It does not impose fines, penalties, or taxes on drivers. In fact, it gives people more choices." I have a question. If it's going to somehow limit the amount of miles people can drive in their personal cars, how are you going to ensure that that limit is enforced? What would you do to enforce that? The answer is going to be penalties and fines. Like, what the fuck do you mean? I choose car. The bill also recognizes that the Commonwealth includes diverse communities with vastly different transportation realities, she added. What works for Greater Boston might not be right for the Berkshires, Central Massachusetts, or the Cape. That's why the bill allows for regional flexibility and supports investments that make sense locally. Or we could just continue letting people choose what they do without having a weird commie cuck bill put into place. Cream's office added that the bill's intent is not to limit how far individuals can drive in their own cars. A proposed bill in Massachusetts aims to reduce how many miles people drive in their cars. Lawmakers say the goal is to reduce the state's greenhouse gas emissions. While no specific mileage was listed, the bill would require MassDOT to set goals to reduce the number of statewide driving miles in general. Cream's office added that the bill's intent is not to limit how far individuals can drive in their own cars. Are there people that actually fall for this? Like, actually? Double speak, yeah, right? Critics say that the bill could represent a bias against those in rural parts of the state where public transportation is harder to come by. Unfortunately, yes, that's so fucking sad, dude. But a Connecticut man accused of cannibalism and murder is granted conditional release. Why? The board granted Tyree Smith's release after a careful review of his clinical progress, officials said. He's currently at Connecticut Valley Hospital in Middletown. Smith is accused of hacking a man to death with an axe in Bridgeport and eating part of the victim's brain and an eyeball. The PSRB said Smith had demonstrated long-term stability, remained engaged in all recommended treatments, and consistently followed his care. I hate soft-on-crime rehabilitation policies! He hacked someone to death and started eating them. I don't want him rehabilitated. I don't want him let out into society once again where he's going to kill someone again. We're going to read about this guy in like less than a year again. That's just his culture. Let him go free. His conditional release requires that he remain under structured supervision and that he continues to receive necessary mental health services. Before being granted conditional release, a person is first placed on temporary leave status. This means they're still confined to the hospital, but have privileges that generally start with daytime passes to receive treatment in the community, including overnights and weekly check-ins at the hospital. Rehabilitation, not punishment, is the goal for all individuals found not guilty by reason of insanity, the PSRB said in a statement. I think that if you're found not guilty by reason of insanity, you should not be allowed back in society. You have proven that you do not understand the most basic rules of covenant for interacting in civil society, which is to not fucking kill people! So why would we want you back out? You should be removed from the mortal coil, not let back out because you pled insane. Being insane is proving you cannot improve. Yeah, also that. State GOP leaders said the decision is outrageous and mind-boggling. Yes, it is. But did you do anything about it since this was almost a year ago? His victim's family raised objections about his release. What about them? Where is the justice for them? Well, they're law-abiding citizens, so they don't fucking matter, actually. Senators Heather Sommers, Paul Cicerella, Henry Martin, and Stephen Harding said in a statement, "This terrible decision puts public safety in jeopardy and is yet another terrible message to send to Connecticut violent crime victims and their families. This person should never be out," the statement continues. "We're dumbfounded at this injustice. In what universe is this okay?" And you know what? I'm gonna look up this guy's name. Records show man in Connecticut cannibalism case assaulted an inmate. Did officials know before releasing him? A Connecticut man acquitted on grounds of insanity in a 2011 Bridgeport murder in which he admitted eating parts of the victim's body was disciplined for a hitting and pushing incident while in jail a dozen years ago, records show. Tyree Smith admitted that he struck fellow inmate at the Garner Correctional Institution in Newtown in the face and pushed him down on April 20th, 2013. According to a report by Lieutenant Kenneth Jensen of the State Department of Correction. Smith said he did that because the inmate was, quote-unquote, talking trash to him, but also said the inmate did not fight back, the lieutenant reported. Smith was placed in punitive segregation for 5 days, then lost recreation for the next 10 days, and lost telephone privileges for 30 days, according to DOC records obtained by CT Insider through a Freedom of Information Act request. This is fucking absurd. We're talking about a murderer who killed someone and then started eating their brain and eyeballs, and you want to come at me with the, well, he lost his recreation privileges and he wasn't allowed to make phone calls for 30 days. We're being tough on crime. Oh my God. DOC records show that Smith was in jail from February 1st, 2012, shortly after he was arrested and charged with the murder of Angel Tuntun Gonzalez in Bridgeport, until July 9th, 2013. After a 3-judge panel acquitted him of murder on grounds of insanity, he was sent to a state mental hospital at the time of his acquittal. He got out of prison on July 9th, 2013, after assaulting someone in the prison on April 20th, 2013. So he assaulted someone in prison in April and got out of prison in July because he was acquitted of murder on the grounds of insanity and then went to a state mental hospital instead. Connecticut is not a real state. What the fuck is happening? You think we shouldn't allow cannibals back into society? Hot take. How dare you? What a twisted bigot you are. Cannibals are people too. Cannibal rights now! In September of that year, the same 3-judge panel committed Smith to the jurisdiction of the State Psychiatric Security Review Board for 60 years. He has spent most of his time since then in the State Psychiatric Hospital Complex in Middletown, but the board began his gradual transition into the community by granting him temporary leave in September 2023. The board in February voted to continue the transition by granting Smith, now 48, conditional release, meaning that all his care will be taken over by community providers and he will no longer have to regularly return to the Middletown Hospital Complex. He now lives in a Waterbury group home. I'd be real fucking worried if I was living in that group home with him. Holy shit. A key question about the significance of the 2013 incident is whether the PSRB has known about it during its deliberations on Smith's case in the almost 12 years he's been under jurisdiction, and has been able to take it into account in making decisions.
He just had a little angry outburst that we fixed by no longer giving him telephone for 30 days. We're the good guys.
When asked that question, Vanessa Cardella, the board's executive director, of course it's a fucking woman, did not answer directly. She said via email that at the board's hearing on Smith's conditional release, it considered an extensive body of evidence concerning the acquittee. If I speak about what I consider their extensive body of evidence, I will be cancelled. I am not able to answer ongoing questions specific to the acquittee, she said. Smith's public defender, William D. O'Connor III, said via email there was no testimony about the 2013 incident at the board's hearing on Smith this year, so he could not say for sure whether the board was aware of it. He added, the incident is over a decade old and apparently did not result in an arrest. So in my view, the 2013 DOC incident is not that big a deal. Not that big a deal. He assaulted someone in prison in April and then was released from prison, acquitted of murder, literally months later. What the fuck do you mean? Talitha Frazier, the sister-in-law of the murder victim, could not be reached for comment. The Gardner Correctional Institution, where the April 2013 striking and pushing incident occurred, specializes in care and treatment for adult male offenders with significant mental health issues, according to its website, which says Garner began that mission under former DOC Commissioner Teresa C. Lance. She held that job from 2003 to 2009, so Garner had that function when Smith was there in 2012 to 13. After the incident, mental health cleared inmate Smith to participate in the disciplinary process, as well as for placement in restrictive housing, Jensen reported. 2 correctional officers escorted Smith to a cell where they conducted a controlled strip search, resulting in negative findings. Inmate Smith remained fully compliant with all staff direction during the escort, as well as the subsequent strip search, and was secured in a cell without incident, Jensen wrote. Medical records related to the incident have been blacked out and the reports released to response to Connecticut Insider's request. Correctional officer Ryan Phelan wrote in a report that he put wrist restraints on the victim, who was sitting on the day room floor, and stabilized him there while medical and custody staff evaluated him. As the conclusion of this process, the wrist restraints were removed and the inmate was secured in the cell where he was housed. Less than a month after the assault on May 16, 2013, Smith possessed contraband Class B according to the DOC records. Class B contraband is defined as drug and/or drug paraphernalia. DOC spokesman Andreas Banevius, I don't know how to pronounce that name, explained via email. The department records show that Smith only received a reprimand for this offense. This was a murderer and a cannibal in prison, continuously reoffending while in prison, and they still acquitted him. They still put him into a mental health home, and he's now been able to freely move about as of 2023. What the fuck are we doing? What the fuck are we doing here? Professional tenants evicted, leaving Burlington home trashed. NBC 10 investigators are continuing to expose professional tenants, people who use the law to scam property owners and avoid paying rent. Massachusetts literally just sounds like a Fallout universe at this point. Like what the? I know they were the center of a Fallout game, but like it's just real now. We found one couple received taxpayer assistance despite a lengthy record of evictions. On Wednesday morning, a constable banged on a front door, a sign that eviction day had arrived on Mohawk Road in Burlington, Massachusetts. There was nobody inside the home, but the professional tenants who had occupied the property for nearly 2 years left a debris field behind. I hate these lazy Susan things here, right? Like, if they could move out a little bit, I think they'd be fine, but it just seems like they waste so much cabinet space, you know? I just like, if you could move it out, I think that would be more helpful, but, you know, that's just my retardation talking. Trash, old food, and dirty dishes littered the floors and counters of the home. An inspection of the property revealed damage like a large hole in the hallway wall. That's how you know men were living there, right? You know, fucking Kyle. How do you live like this? Like, I can understand having a messy counter with just, like, stuff on it, but not when it's, like, trash. Like, that's just wild. Oh, that's a hole in the wall near the floor. Did someone fucking kick it? What the hell? Brian Coombees and his wife Nicole Insera, why do they have different last names, moved into the property in December 2023 and immediately stopped paying rent. Oh, I wonder if they have different last names to further defraud, like, our welfare systems. As we previously reported, taxpayers kicked in $23,000 of rental assistance through a state program. However, the couple failed to hold up their end of the bargain. Eventually, the family was kicked out of the program, leaving the landlord to cover all monthly expenses out of pocket. Attorney Robert Lee then spent more than a year in housing court trying to evict the family. I understand there absolutely needs to be protections because there are landlords who are scumfucks and will take advantage of tenants. But it feels like it should not take a year to remove people not paying rent. Like, that just seems wild. While everyone describes Massachusetts as tenant-friendly, I've come to the phrase that it's landlord impossible, Lee said. You really don't have to try that hard to stay in a place without paying money. Lee said the property owner, an immigrant from Syria who speaks little English, borrowed money from friends and family to avoid losing the home to foreclosure. When adding up the lost rent, legal fees, moving expenses, and cost of upkeeping the Coombe's possessions and storage, Lee said the financial ordeal for his client will surpass $100,000. It certainly has been challenging for the family to go through this experience, Lee said. There's really not much you can do except ride it out. Leo Bihaj, an Ipswich resident, can relate to that experience. This is kind of crazy. How is the property owner an immigrant that barely speaks English? And what kind of world are we living in where there's like random retards able to take money from taxpayers to stay in a property that they're not going to pay rent in, and they trash it, and then the property is owned by someone who can't even speak English? So like, is the property owner even here legally at this point? Like, what the fuck are we doing? The time period is no exaggeration. Our review of housing records show this is now the 13th eviction for the Coombe's in Massachusetts. How are they still able to rent with 13 fucking evictions? It is a pattern that started with Peter Amato and his family 2 decades ago in Woburn. It got really bad really fast, Amato recalled. It was a lot of stress on my parents. I had stress knowing what they were going through. Just like in other cases, housing court records show the Coombe's represented himself in court and used a number of tactics to delay the eviction process in Burlington. Those included complaining to the town's Board of Health about items in disrepair, and then refusing to let contractors into the property to fix them, submitting multiple appeals, and even trying an 11th hour bankruptcy filing before the clock finally ran out. By our count, it is now the 10th different bankruptcy filing between the Coombe's and Insera over the past decade. Aside from the most recent filing this month, court records show all those cases were dismissed. When we confronted Coombe's outside of housing court last May, he defended his actions. I use the law, and the law helps me do what I need to do, Coombe said. I don't avoid paying rent. I use the law to my advantage when people don't fix things. That's some sovereign citizen fucking craziness. That's wild. That's insane. Holy shit. There is now plenty to fix in the wake of the Coombe's unwelcome stay at the property in Burlington. Oh, this is the wood paneling I was talking about, chat. Usually it's like not as detailed, so this might actually be real wood, but like the fake wood doesn't have any of the graining, but it looks basically the same, just way cheaper. We have questions about how the Coombe's qualified for taxpayer rental assistance considering the long list of evictions. Because Massachusetts is a bleeding heart fucking town that's just going to give money to criminals. The state's Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities told us that because of privacy laws, the agency can't discuss individual recipients. However, we will keep digging for answers because it's not the only example we uncovered over the course of our ongoing investigation. We also have an update about Russ and Linda Callahan, the husband and wife who first caught our attention on the topic of professional tenants last year. We found the couple in Worcester County had more than 20 evictions on their record and well over $100,000 in legal judgments for unpaid rent. They look exactly like you would expect. They have like really drugged up, gross faces. In the wake of our reporting, a grand jury indicted the Callahans on more than 50 criminal charges, including theft, forgery, and fraud. Linda Callahan posted bail, but it did not take long to land in more legal trouble. According to a police report we obtained, she tried to write more than $2,000 in checks from a closed bank account at a Comfort Inn in September. What the fuck? A front desk employee recognized Linda Callahan from our news coverage and called Auburn police. The notorious professional tenant went back to jail for the bail violation earlier this month and also picked up several new criminal charges. According to court audio, a judge allowed her release to receive treatment for a medical condition at UMass Memorial in Worcester. She is not allowed to leave and go anywhere else without the court's permission. In the meantime, Russ Callahan has remained behind bars at the Worcester County House of Corrections since his arrest in July. Man, how fucked up is that? That the wife manages to post bail and just leaves your ass in there? Holy shit, what a cold-hearted bitch! The couple is due back in Worcester Superior Court next month. When was this published? This is published in motherfucking November 20th, 2025. So who knows what happened to them after that. Say his name, Harold Harper. Harper was killed point-blank range in his yard while gardening by Isaac Toy, total stranger, Ocala, Florida, 4 days ago. This was on January 11th. So a little more than 4 at this point. Someone down here, some retard said this can't be true. Who the fuck are you? Emmy Award winner, former advisor to President of the United States? What a shitty advisor they must have been. But I did look it up. My husband is dead. 64-year-old man shot and killed while gardening in his yard. Suspect arrested. In Ocala, Florida, a Florida man is dead after being shot while gardening, and the suspected shooter had been charged with his murder. The Ocala Police Department called Wednesday's shooting a random act of violence. According to an arrest report, a neighbor called 911 to report a suspicious person, later identified as Isaac Toy, 29, walking with a gun in Ocala neighborhood on Southeast 3rd Street. Moments later, 911 operators received calls reporting that Harold Harper, 64, had been shot in his front yard. When officers arrived, they found Harper dead with a single gunshot wound to the back of his head. Officers said they found Toy a short distance away with a loaded 9mm pistol in his hoodie. So that's kind of wild that people had reported this guy to 911 for walking around with a gun. No police were in the area fast enough to prevent this guy from getting randomly murdered on his own property. A single shell casing was discovered next to Harper's body that matched the gun Toy was carrying. Ocala police said he was also found carrying more ammunition. A neighbor told investigators that she was inside her home when she had heard the gunshot. She stepped outside and could see Harper's wife saying, "My husband is dead." Family members told officers that Harper was in the front yard gardening at the time of the shooting. He recently had major surgery on his neck and used gardening as a form of therapy. Man. You have open carry in Florida? Yeah, open carry is fine, but if you have open carry in Florida and someone who lives in Florida knowing it's an open carry state notices a suspicious person who they don't see in their neighborhood carrying a gun, I think that's a normal 911 call. If I looked outside and I was in an open carry state and I saw a random person I'd never seen before carrying a weapon down the street just in his hand for whatever fucking reason, I'd be like, that's fucking suspicious. That's fucking weird. A single shell casing was discovered next to Harper's body that matched the gun Toy was carrying. Ocala police said he was also found carrying more ammunition. A neighbor told investigators that she was inside her home when she heard the gunshot. She stepped outside and could see Harper's wife saying, "My husband is dead." Family members told officers that Harper was in the front yard gardening at the time of the shooting. He recently had major surgery on his neck and used gardening as a form of therapy. Loved ones said he didn't have any tools other than a bucket for collecting weeds at the time of the shooting. Officers do not believe Toy and Harper knew each other or had any connection. Ocala Mayor Ben Marciano thanked police for their swift response and arrest in the case. Neighbors said Harper's murder is devastating. Ocala Mayor Ben Marciano thanked police for their swift response and arrest in this case. Neighbors said Harper's murder is devastating. He was a wonderful neighbor. His passion was gardening. He kept his yard well groomed and he loved the outdoors. He was just a very nice man, always said hello, neighbor Joan Zoller said. Other neighbors expressed being afraid to live in the area due to a recent uptick in crime. Also might explain why that one neighbor called the cops. To me, it's scary. Ocala, in my opinion, it's a scary place. I lived in New York for many years, and I actually felt safer in New York than I do in Ocala, neighbor Billy McLean said. Toy was booked on charges that include second-degree murder. Second degree. I don't know if second degree is the premeditation one. It says, Ocala city leaders respond to neighbor fears after deadly historic district shooting. This was in a fucking historic district, man? Premeditated is first? Oh boy. City leaders are responding to fears from neighbors who no longer feel safe after a deadly shooting on Wednesday in Ocala's historic district. Ocala Police Department officers say the shooting was a random act of violence, but that may be little comfort to residents wondering what could happen next. I wonder, when this is going to have, like a hate crime stipulation on it, right? Because a lot of these random instances of murder seemingly happen to, like, white people. Almost everything around Ocala is historic. It's an old college and farm town. Interesting. I did not know that. According to police, a neighbor first called 911 after seeing a man chamber around in a silver handgun near Southeast 3rd Street and 11th Avenue. Minutes later, another call came in reporting a shooting. Yeah, that is fucking suspicious. Absolutely. Holy fuck. Officers found Harold Harper, 64, dead in his front yard with a single gunshot wound to the back of the head. The suspect, Isaac Toy, 29, was found a short distance away with a loaded 9mm pistol. Investigators say the shell casing at the scene matched the gun. So is this like he went into this neighborhood, loaded his handgun, and just hoped to see one of the residents on their front lawn? Just went out casually hunting for white guys? City leaders say the shooting has shaken the community, especially because neighbors knew the victim and described him as one of the nicest people on their street. You take back what you said about the caller. If the first call already mentioned a gun, it's fucked that the police did not get there faster, yeah? Especially if it mentioned him loading the gun in the street? Like, what the fuck, man? Obviously, we will get a report and figure out what he was doing in the neighborhood, said City Council member James Hilty. From what I gather, he lived in Marion Oaks, so that wasn't his neighborhood. So we've got to figure some of these things out, and that's what has to come to us. And then we will take the appropriate steps from there. Hilty says neighborhood fear is understandable, but he believes increased police vigilance and technology helped lead to a quick arrest. If there was increased police vigilance, wouldn't they have gotten there before he shot the guy when the first call came in to report a suspicious man loading a pistol in the middle of the street? It's not really increased technology when the guy who shot the white dude was just down the street, still holding his pistol. Like, come the fuck on, man. And he was just out for a jog. What do you mean? Hilty also pointed to city data showing homicides have declined overall and says the city has been proactive in prevention, including outreach programs for veterans. People confirmed the suspect is a veteran. What? Police confirmed the suspect is a veteran. What? Mayor Ben Marciano shared a message on social media saying his heart goes out to Harper's family and that the city will work hard to make sure justice is served. Police say they do not believe the victim and suspect knew each other. Toy has pleaded not guilty and is charged with second-degree murder and aggravated assault. That's kind of fucking crazy. Always the nicest, most vulnerable, most loved people in communities that these monsters target and hurt. I don't even think it's like on purpose that they target like most loved or whatever. It's just like, if that guy hadn't been out on his lawn that day, it would have been someone going out to check their mail or someone walking their dog. It would have just been someone else in that neighborhood. Trump has already deported enough people from Minnesota for them to lose a congressional seat. Is that true? Minnesota ICE raids. Trump's deported enough illegals from Minnesota that they'll lose a congressional seat. NBC News reported that the ICE raid in Minnesota has resulted in more than 2,400 arrests. When you combine it with the previous arrest total since January, it's likely that about 5,000 illegal aliens have been arrested in Minnesota since the start of the Trump presidency. An astoundingly high number given that the state has around 100,000 illegal aliens. We need to pump them numbers up. Only 5,000. We need all of them rounded up and gone, man. About 2% of the state's total illegal alien population in about a year is very productive. That doesn't include the number of foreign-born residents who have self-deported. While that has immediate implications for Trump's presidency and his ability to achieve his campaign promises, it also has far-reaching effects for the next decade. In 2020, when the census was detailing which state received how many congressional districts, Minnesota held on to its 8th congressional district by a mere 89 people. If they had 89 fewer people, that seat would have gone to New York. Now, I know what you're saying. Who cares? It would have gone to another blue state. Yes, but that's not a guarantee for the 2030 census, which is right around the corner, just 4 years away. The trend from the last 2 decades is that American citizens are increasingly turning away from blue states, overtaxed, expensive housing, and cities that, for all intents and purposes, are being run into the ground. Now, with easy access to cheaper homes and apartments, year-round air conditioning, lower taxes, and fewer restrictions during COVID, that trend has accelerated over the last 5 years. Minneapolis City Attorney's Office emailed staff inviting them to a healing circle with therapy goats. While Democrats fan the flames against ICE agents, city staff are being offered quiet reflection time with goats. This is not parody. This is Minneapolis. Here's an email from Kristen Anderson at minneapolismn.gov to attorney users at minneapolismn.gov. Subject: resources, healing circle, and therapy goats. CAO friends, I wanted to pass this along. Human Resources will be facilitating a healing circle from 12 to 1 p.m. in PSB 100AB for any city employees who would like to be in a shared space with colleagues. This is intended as a quiet, supportive environment for connection and presence. As a reminder, therapy goats will also be in PSB 100 beginning at noon, and folks are welcome to stop by at any point. Participation is entirely optional. There's no expectation to speak or actively participate. Attendees are welcome to simply sit, listen, and be in community with one another. Signed, Kristen Anderson, she/her, Minneapolis city attorney. Is this what our politicians have had to turn to after Epstein's Island got shut down? They don't have their readily available resource of underage women. So they need to get goats instead. Crime Watch Minneapolis saying we're fucked. We have copies of the same and similar messages also going out several times earlier this week from sergeants begging for Minneapolis officers to come in for overtime. P3 days 3 short. We have 3 overtime spots available today. Let me know. Sergeant blacked out. Minneapolis Police Department 3rd Precinct redacted. We're told the 3rd Precinct days only had 3 police officers on Wednesday when the minimum is about 10. The overtime open slots being requested above in the email is just to get to minimum staffing. Minneapolis yesterday. And this is a picture of a Facebook post that says, last thought for the night, I don't post much. I had a cop quit today because he was targeted due to the federal mission in our city. He's one of the best cops we have. We're not the enemy. He showed up to help someone and was immediately targeted because he was in a uniform. This man was destroyed by the political situation. He spent over 25 years protecting this community. I watched him care for a child at Annunciation and fight for justice for those who had no voice. I then watched him leave in absolute defeat today. Remember who you're fighting against. We are not the same. We are the paladins of the city we protect. Do not create villains of those that by definition are saints. They will leave to protect their family. There will, and most certainly can be, no one left to hold back the tide of darkness. Matthew 5:9, blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called children of God. Genuinely cannot tell if this person is saying the cop was a decent man or the cop was one of the people who constantly capitulated to those screaming about justice when they put themselves in terrible situations. On Crime Watch, we've just heard from sources that possibly 60 to 80 Minneapolis police officers have or are planning to apply for the new Minnesota 12-week paid family medical leave program. There are no provisions in the law to limit the number of parties from any one entity from being granted leave all at one time. Who fucking passed this? And the requests go through HR, so the entity doesn't know who's going until they're gone. On a related note, about 150 Minneapolis police officers are currently eligible to retire. And it's a screenshot here that also says, in Minnesota, there are no statutory limits on how many employees can be approved for paid family and medical leave from a single business at one time. The law prioritizes an individual employee's right to take leave for qualifying life events over a business's immediate staffing needs. And then Liz Collin saying here, we're hearing from multiple sources that dozens of Minneapolis police officers, 60 to 70 so far, have turned in paperwork for Minnesota's new paid leave program. It allows up to 20 weeks of paid leave for personal or family reasons and comes at a time when morale is said to be at an all-time low. I feel like it's not going to be that much different, right? Like normally I'd be like, hell yeah, let as many police officers go off as you humanly can, because then it will be more of a reason for people to go in with the feds to actually get shit done for once. But if the police in Minneapolis have either literally been doing nothing already, been actively impeding any kind of assistance, a la when they asked Nick Sotor if he was white and then ran him around in circles for 20 minutes, not helping him, or if they're just actively helping the rioters, then it just seems like these are a bunch of police that are like, we can get paid to continue to do nothing and also not have people hate us for doing nothing. So it seems like this isn't police officers being like, hey, we're going to take time off to show people that we're necessary. It's more, we're going to take time off. We're going to get paid for continuing to do the nothing we've already been doing. They've already either been sitting on their hands or protecting the bad guys. Bon voyage. Yeah, pretty much. Pretty fucking much. And then Liz Collin update here. Multiple sources confirming now this number has climbed to more than 100 Minneapolis police officers who have applied for the new paid leave program. here's another tweet from Allie Bradley. I don't know who that is, but breaking, at least 11 government vehicles or rentals driven by federal law enforcement vandalized at a hotel in Eagan, Minnesota overnight. You can see all of them have had ice plastered on the vehicles. I don't know if there's any, like, actual damage beyond the paint stripping. I don't know if they've smashed out windows or anything, because you can only see some of the angles here. If Minnesota doesn't stop them, all of the cops will end up doing this. Yep. There was actually a teacher strike to join the protest. They weren't asking for permission. They were just gonna do it. Fuck teachers' unions. Oh, Christ, man. I could not agree more. Fuck teachers' unions. What really happened to Filian?
Is there any truth to your daughter being on hiatus because ICE sent her back to the Philippines? I wasn't going to talk about this at all. I shouldn't say anything, but the rumors are true.
Chad, it's all coming together. I told you Filian was out on an island. The Philippines are a group of islands. She got deported by ICE.
Rumors are true. ICE did knock down Filian's door, and they did kidnap her and send her back to the Philippines. And I'm currently working with ICE at the moment to get her back. Where it's a work in progress.
He's gonna kill you for revealing this.
I know it's really embarrassing for her, but like, listen, it's a work.
I was trying to protect her by not saying she was spirited away by ICE. You know, I didn't want more riots in the street. I thought I could just cover it up by saying, oh, you know, she's on a little island right now. But that just got people talking about her being on Epstein's island. It's like, wait a minute, I don't know, not that island. Not that we're going a little psycho here. She just got deported, man. We got to figure out how to get her to flip back into the U.S.
In progress. I'm doing the best I can, okay? It's getting really complicated because I'm getting all of the ICE officers, like, in a row, and I'm threatening to spank them all with my chancla, but, like,
they're into that?
Keep saying, you know, do it with, like, a smile on their face.
Yeah, that checks out.
I just feel like it's counter. I don't know why. I just feel
like the ICE officer that shot that one lady who was trying to kill him, he's got a Filipino wife. What if his wife is Filian? What if Filian, after getting deported by ICE, decided to get wed to an ICE agent so she could come back to the U.S.? What a twist! We're actually working with M. Night Shyamalan on this one, guys.
What a twist!
It's a little counterintuitive. I don't think it's helping. I might need a few extra chanclas. I might need to, like, add some spikes
Gothic
to the
chanclas.
end of those chanclas because, like, I don't know what else to do. But don't worry. Don't worry. She's gonna survive in the Philippines. She will just backflip her way into the trees to get bananas and coconuts and mangoes. Like,
please
she
do not
will survive.
eat my
She will
brethren.
be fine. So, work in progress. We'll get her out. Don't worry. Mama will take care of it. Is Abel? I'm so scared. Is Abel in here? Did he see that? Abel sees all. I'm scared. He's like,
be scared.
Abel, don't clip that. It's supposed to be a secret. Tubes, you rat. What do you mean he'll know in a little bit?
You know, why would people be mad at this? What's to get mad about? What's to get mad about? That doesn't make any sense.